Welcome in the Quest Number 9 podcast. My name is Seth Warner. Today on this episode, we're going to be talking about Kentucky basketball from a fan's perspective. And on this episode, we're going to be talking about Kentucky players getting back on campus. Since the last time we talked, we didn't have an episode last week, but things are starting to pick up with Kentucky players practicing, and we're getting closer and closer to that October 24th date of Kentucky's first preseason game. We're getting closer and closer to Big Blue Madness. And with Kentucky players getting on campus, arriving last week, 2 weeks ago, Coach Brooks did an interview talking about him and was saying he's fit like a glove. The transition's been really good. That's one thing with him, with expectations of him coming over. I really thought it wasn't going to be an issue just with his experience playing professional basketball and overall just being a guy that is a very high IQ basketball player. And something else we're going to be talking about is Bleacher Report put out another mock draft for 2026. We have a couple Kentucky players that are noted. That is Jaden Quaintance, Otega Owe, and Cam Williams were three of note. I'll talk about kind of what NBA season, their projections, and just a little bit more deep dive in those. And a couple guys that I see at Kentucky that could play a really big role. And if they do their projection that they would allow Kentucky to really be an elite team, I think they could be a guy that gets potentially drafted. I have two players in mind, and give some real insight of how I see this roster filling out going into next season and just how the pieces we're going to have to fill as kind of projecting into next season. Starting out, I was talking about players back on campus. Kentucky had kind of their team bonding week. They did zip lining. They did a lot of different things. This is really important for these players to really get connected. And Coach Brooks really talked about it. He did an interview with KSR and talking about them having to love each other, and they're willing to be sacrificed more if they love each other. So I thought that was very important. And really, as a team that has quite a bit of turnover, team chemistry is going to be really important for this squad as we progress closer and closer, like I said, to that October 24th slot where Kentucky starts basketball back. And like I was talking about, Kentucky had several players that were put in a mock draft by Bleacher Report. Otega Owe, Jaden Quaintance, and Cam Williams. Jaden Quaintance was the highest out of all those. That's not any surprise to anyone that knows Kentucky basketball or Jaden Quaintance. He was projected in that 4 range. I think that's realistically about where he'll be with this class. Darren Peterson, AJ DeMansa, and Boozer, with those three being really the top players in the country coming in this freshman class and potentially some of the best players in the country. But Jaden Quaintance really makes him special. We've talked a lot about this over the offseason, is just his combination of size and athleticism. He's a lot bigger and more physical, I think, combined with his length than any of those guys defensively. His combination of defensive rebounding and shot blocking is more advanced than any of those guys at 6'9", 6'10". Could really play the 4 or the 5, really mobile, can make good decisions, and it's just an athletic freak with the 7'5" wingspan. Has some of the shot blocking tools that Boozer doesn't have, and any of those guys have, with some of the rebounding tools too. And having a year of college experience, I'll be interesting to see how he compares to some of the top players as Kentucky goes into this season and really goes against this tough competition as he keeps on recovering from his ACL tear as potentially one of the best players in all of college basketball. As a guy that could legitimately, I think, be a 17, 3 assists, 3 blocks, 10 rebounds kind of guy, just because he does all those little things well. I think him and Jalen Lowe will be a really good pick and roll combo, lob threat. It'll create a lot of easy opportunities, while Jaden Quaintance, with his ability to put it on the floor and just make decisions, I think will create a lot of opportunities for himself. Another guy is Otega Owe, Kentucky's main guy coming back, most likely preseason SEC Player of the Year. A guy that can just do a lot of different things on the floor. Defensively makes big plays. Something that we saw in some of the camps and stuff he's done is his consistency defensively. He was able to really rein in some of his erraticness on defense, because sometimes he could lose intensity and give up easy stuff. But he's just a guy that's always going to get downhill and create advantages. That's something that the NBA is always looking for, while still being an okay shooter. But I think that's still progressing, and we'll see how his leap shooting ability comes in his second year under Mark Pope. But a guy coming into last year's draft was a potential second rounder, mid-second round. I think if he has a year that he's capable of, that early second round, maybe late first round is probably a good spot for him as a guy that could be on a OKC, Boston, and come in and give you some spark minutes and just do a little bit of everything, as a guy that's willing to buy in and just do the dirty work and be consistent in everything he does. The other guy that was picked to be in this mock draft is Cam Williams. Cam Williams is one of the higher upside players on this team. 6'8" long, 205 wing, who can just do a lot of different things with the ball in his hands. Not the most able to put it on the floor, but has that mobility to get laterally that some guys his size don't have, while being a knockdown shooter, shooting 42% last year at Tulane, and has a high upside defensively with his overall motor and ability to do multiple things with the ball in his hands. And also, I talked about a couple guys that I think could legitimately sneak into this draft if they play like I think they're capable of. Aberdeen is one of those guys, the Florida transfer, 6'5", 195. Really a Swiss Army knife at the college level. He can play 1 through 3. Really, really athletic, vertical. Last year, one of the stats that really encouraged me about him transferring over to Kentucky and his ability to fit in this Mark Pope system is he did shoot 40% from 3 on catch and shoot attempts. With a team like this that has so many downhill threats, with the Jalen Lowe's, with the Otega Owes, and some of these really, really good athletes, Denzel Aberdeen's going to get a lot of catch and shoot threes. Whoever plays that 2 position is going to get a lot of catch and shoot threes, or is going to be a big-time cutter with his athleticism, just ability to get downhill, or when he has the ball in his hands, he can just do a lot of different things, shooting 35% from 3 overall. So he's still a good shooter overall, and it'll be interesting to see as we expand his volume. But I don't have many doubts about his shooting translating, with Kentucky giving him a larger and larger amount of catch and shoot attempts compared to what he had at Florida. Another guy that I'll be interested to see if he can really make this jump this year, if he can really stand out to some NBA scouts, is Colin Chandler. Colin Chandler is 6'5", 205, physical guard, one of the better athletes on the team, especially last year. Was a 4-star coming out of high school, really talented player, had his 2-year mission. Kind of similar to Aberdeen, I see him being kind of a Swiss Army knife, playing multiple positions, even 1 to 3. He has the size, the physicality, the athleticism to compete with some of these 6'7", 6'8" wings. And at the NBA level, he can guard a lot of these perimeter-oriented players while still being a knockdown shooter, shooting 44% in the month of March last year, being a high-level shooter for a large of that year when he really started to get his confidence and understand the rhythm of the game. And the last guy that I'll be interested to see how his projections go as he continues to develop is Jalen Lowe. Jalen Lowe, we've heard really good things about him coming out of camp, summer practices, with his ability to really knock down the three ball. That improvement, I think, will really open up some things just purely on our dribble handoffs that Kentucky runs so much. I think those looks will look a lot better compared to his looks at Pitt with the athletes and with Aberdeen and all these guys that can really knock down perimeter shots. One of my semi-hot takes, I don't think it's that hot, is I think Jalen Lowe could average 8 assists, lead the SEC assists, just with his abilities being, if he's able to be respectable from three, I think he'll be able to control the pace of the game. Defenses will have to step up on him with the big coming off those handoffs, and they won't know really what to do if you drop it off to Jaden Quaintance or any of our other bigs. Brandon Garrison, another guy that has some NBA upside. I'll be interested to see how the rotation goes for him this year and if he can affirm himself in the rotation, while Malachi Moreno, like we've talked about, has been progressing as we go into this pivotal time of the fall semester and with practices starting back up. And another guy that has NBA upside, Yelovich, he was known as one of the top players, one of the top overseas players, really skilled 6'10" forward. Like I was saying, his transition's been going really well. I think he'll fit in the Mark Pope system really well. And one thing that I heard is he would have probably already been an NBA player if his shooting was just improved. And I think another thing that NBA scouts will really like is to see him in a more American style offense, where because the styles can very much change with who dominates, and in some of the athleticism in the SEC that was better at his professional team. And that's all from the Quest Number 9 podcast. Please like and subscribe and stay tuned till next week's episode. And you can go find me at Quest Number 9 on Instagram and Twitter. And I will see you next time.